Hey there, Colin Gwynn here with DJI. In this video, we're going to take a little bit more of an in-depth look at the camera that comes with your Phantom 2 Vision. Now, the great thing about designing a camera from the ground up, specifically to be used on a flying machine, is that we can do away with all the unnecessary things on normal cameras that you wouldn't want when you're having your camera fly around in the air, such as LCD screens and buttons and handles to make it more ergonomic to hold, or flashes, or internal batteries, all of which add weight and reduce your flight time. So what we've been able to do is design this camera to maximize image and video quality while keeping the size and weight as small as possible. So if we take a look at the actual physical camera, we can see things that you would normally see on much higher end cameras, like an aspherical glass lens element, or the fact that it shoots 14 megapixel stills in both RAW and JPEG. It'll shoot 24 frames or 30 frames progressive 1080p video, or it can shoot 720p and up to 60 frames. So it's got great specifications. It's got a fixed 2.8 aperture, and then you've got field of view options that range from 90 degrees, 120 degrees, or 140 degrees at the widest setting. That's the physical camera itself. So the really cool thing about it is that now we can control the entire thing from the ground using the DJI Vision app on your smartphone. So let's take a look at how that works. All right, so let's get this thing up in the air and see what kind of photos we can take, and take a look at some of the different settings that you have access to through the DJI Vision application. So I'm up here at 120, 140. Let's get a couple hundred feet in the air. Okay, there's a couple hundred feet right there. Got a nice little view of downtown Austin. Now what we're gonna do is just walk you through some of the settings that you have access to from the camera app within the DJI Vision application. So this little gear wheel on the bottom right, I'll press that, which brings up this first setting affects what happens when I press the shutter button to take a photo. Right now, it's set to take one photo. I can change it to a burst of 3, a burst of 5, which you may want to use for action, or if somebody's doing a jump or something's going to happen it's going to be some cool action shot, you may want to take 5 quick photos or 3 quick photos of it to make sure you get a nice one that you have, you know, right in the action of the scene. So that's your 3 photo burst, your 5 photo burst. And then there's a one with a little clock on it, which is an intervalometer. Now what that allows me to do is, say I want to take a photo every 4 seconds and I want to take 10 photos, and I hit the check mark. Now that means when I click the shutter button, it's gonna, for the next 40 seconds, it's gonna take 10 photos, because it take a photo every 4 seconds for 10 times. So that's the intervalometer, which can be really handy for taking panoramas and things like that. The next setting down allows me to change between small, medium, and large for our JPEG compression. So if I'm just taking some photos, and say I want to take 10 or 15 aerial photos and email them straight from my phone to somebody, I may want to select small instead of medium or large. Now, for me, I want to go ahead and keep it at large, which you'll see my available photo counter went from 6,000 and something in the small setting, 6,357, change it to large, and it goes to 4,767. So your file sizes are going to be a little bit bigger, but the photo quality is going to be better as well. The next thing, adjust what type of video you want to shoot. Do I want to do 720p 60, 1080p 30? And then on 1080p 30, I can either do wide, medium, or narrow for my aspect ratio. So I'm going to keep it at 1080p 30 wide. Hit the check mark. The next one allows me to select between RAW and JPEG. If you're doing a lot of post-processing, stitching together panoramas, things like that, it's great to shoot in RAW. So the next thing is our ISO. I can leave that at auto, or I can force it to 100, 200, or 400 ISO. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep my ISO auto. My white balance, I can have it be auto, or I can set it for cloudy day, sunny day, indoor conditions. I'm gonna leave white balance at auto. So here you can change your exposure metering from spot metering, center weighted average, or evaluative. Now you may want to select this bottom left one, spot metering, for instance, if say you're going to look down here. Let's get out of our settings and tilt down, and we want to really expose for the darker ground and the darker trees, versus say if I'm tilted up, it's going to be centered on the center of your frame. So you can see how my skies are a little blown out here. I can change that setting again, and let's go back to evaluative. And now you can see how it brings the sky back in a little bit, and leaves my ground and trees a little darker. And then the other thing you can do for your exposure is do exposure compensation. So if I want to underexpose the scene by, say, a full stop, I hit the check mark, look how the whole scene gets darker. If I want to overexpose by, say, 0.7 stops, I can hit the check mark and the whole scene gets a little brighter. So you have a really nice control to be able to adjust your exposure settings while you're flying, as well as your metering settings. Now, the next one is your sharpness. For certain things, you may want to have a very, very sharp picture. Other things, you may want a little bit of a softer image. Here's where you can change that from standard to soft or hard on your sharpness settings. The next one is for anti-flicker. Now, this is not something you'll generally have to worry about, but if you're flying around inside for whatever reason or in a stadium, you may want to change it to 50 hertz or 60 hertz to get rid of any kind of flickering lines. So that's your anti-flicker settings. Reset will restore your factory defaults. I'm gonna hit cancel on that. And then of course the lower one will format the SD card. I'm gonna hit cancel there as well. So those are all the settings that you have access to from your camera. Let's go ahead and go up to like 400 feet, set an intervalometer so that we can go ahead and do a nice panorama of the city of Austin. I'm gonna go ahead and change my intervalometer to shoot a picture every 3 seconds for 7 pictures. That'll give me 21 seconds to do a nice slow rotation and capture a bunch of great pictures to stitch together. So I hit the check mark. Now you'll notice that my photo capture button now has a little clock icon, which tells me that that's the mode that I'm in. So I'm gonna start kind of on the right side of downtown. That way I can finish and get 2 sweeps of downtown. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit my capture button to start taking photos. And then I'm gonna start rotating. So I'm just doing a nice slow rotation. I want it to last for about 20 seconds. Okay, great. So I've gone all the way around and captured a bunch of images the whole way around. Now, if we want, we can actually take a look at those photos by going out here, looking into the album. And right now I'm looking at what's on the SD card. So I can see the photos that I just took there. I can bring one up, take a look at my framing and exposure. You can kind of zoom in on it. You get a much higher definition view around. So keep in mind, I'm still up at 400 feet and I'm zooming into this photo, a full 14 megapixel image, so that I can check and make sure that before I land, I really like my exposure settings. I like the look of the photo, and I can go ahead and confirm that. Yep, I like it. Go back to my camera view. Now be sure to check out our friend Russell Brown. He's done a great tutorial to show how to use a Phantom 2 Vision and capture some beautiful panoramic images. You'll be able to use Photoshop, select the lens profile for the Phantom 2 Vision, which allows you to stitch them all together and have very, very low distortion. So that's a quick look at the different settings that you can adjust with the DJI Vision application. So get out there, fly, experiment, have fun. We're really excited to see what you guys do with your flying camera.